What's up, guys, and welcome to Movie Importance Flashback Reviews, where I take movies from the past, break them down, and tell you what I think about them. If you like what you see, of course, hit the subscribe button, join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find out what's coming next, and of course, comment below on any video that you watch on my channel. So, we've passed Thanksgiving, we're now officially in December, so you know what that means? We're talking about Christmas movies. Now, not every movie I talk about this month will be a Christmas movie, but because it's the beginning of the holiday season, I wanted to talk about a classic traditional Christmas movie, and that, of course, is 1994's The Santa Claus. Now, this is a movie that was not well liked among critics, and I kind of understand because it's very, very Tim Allen and very of his type of material. But I love the movie. I think it's fun. I think it's fantastical. I think it has a lot of heart. And I think it's a great family film because there's like no language, there's hardly any violence, and it's just a fun all around Christmas movie as well as just a fun fantasy film. And it's directed by Tim Allen staple, John Pasquin, who really knows how to work with Tim Allen. But the movie is very interesting because it has a double meaning, which I will get into in a couple seconds, of the Santa Claus itself. And it's about this guy, Scott Calvin, who of course is played by Tim Allen. And Scott Calvin is a high-level executive. He has created the toy of Christmas, and he's doing very well for himself. But we need some conflict in this movie, and there's plenty of it. And we have Eric Lloyd, who is playing his son. And his son, of course, is a very prescient child. He believes in a lot of stuff. He's, of that age, so he's gonna believe in Santa Claus. And so because he's neglected from his father, he doesn't really want to be with him on Christmas Eve. He wants to be with his mom, who is played by Wendy Crewson. And she is married to, of course, Judge Reinhold's character, which I love, Judge Reinhold. So it makes it already a great movie for me in essence. But so how the story plays out from there is basically the Scott Calvin reads his son the story of Night Before Christmas, and he misinterprets the ladder to the roof or whatever. And so basically a noise wakes them up, noise of clatter, but he really thinks it's a ladder. So they go out and they see somebody on the roof. Of course, Scott Calvin, as a normal, logical human being, thinks it's going to be a burglar. But they scare the guy falls off the roof, and he dies in essence, which is the violence of the movie, but that's about it. And he is basically disappears. They don't know what happens. There's a really funny joke about him running naked around the neighborhood, which I really like. And so his son somehow it goads him into wearing the costume, which is really funny. He puts it on, and that's where the Santa Claus comes in. And he goes up to the roof, sees some reindeer, and this is when our fantastical tale happens, where his son has a lot of power over him in this movie, which is really a lot of fun, but really funny because he convinces, in some weird state, to get Scott Calvin to fly these reindeer and deliver presents throughout the world. And it brings in the whole logical reason of, how's that possible? How is he able to visit? But there's some logical reasoning in this movie that actually shows it helps that. So they deliver all the presents. They end up back in the North Pole. There's some really fun moments, with all the presents and stuff like that. And they meet a character named Bernard, who's played by my favorite part about this movie, played by David Krumholtz. And David Krumholtz is basically a very stern, kind of by-the-book guy, but he really cares about the Santa Claus itself. They visit, the North Pole. It's this big workshop as we know it from the, fantasy tales of Santa Claus and whatnot. And of course, Scott Calvin, once again, he's like, this doesn't seem real. I know I'm sleeping. And he is basically shown that he basically killed the other Santa Claus in essence. And because he put on the suit, he is Santa Claus. And because Scott Calvin is a businessman, he's like, I don't believe you. And so he shows him, he's like, do you have the card in the pocket? He's like, yeah. Pulls it out, puts a magnifying glass on it. And we see there's an actual clause, like in a contract, an actual clause saying that once you put on the suit, after the last person dies, you become the Santa Claus, which is a fantastical point that deals with a plot hole of this idea of this movie, which is great. The idea that they went with that is fantastic. And so he's like, you have 1 year to get your affairs in order, and then you will become the Santa Claus. Well, as things do, we get into the realistic part of the story or it's not really realistic, but it's fantastical realism, where we wake up back in the normal day. Scott Calvin thinks everything's fake. But things start to happen that are really fantastical and really fun to watch, where not only does he grow weight, but he grows a white beard. He has to deal with his doctor who's telling him to lose weight because he's eating a bunch of cookies and stuff like that. And he's also being chased by reindeer. He's also being chased, by kids who think he's the Santa Claus because of the way he looks. But the way things are happening, the way things the other adults who are the logical people in essence are seeing this thing is that Scott Calvin is gone a little cuckoo. He's crazy in essence. And so they start to kind of wonder if he's suited to be a father, and they're starting to worry because his son believes that his father and himself went to the North Pole. And that's a problem because if you're in real life, you can't be instilling those things into kids. Yes, kids are fantastical in their views of nature and life and whatnot. To get your child to really believe this story can be a problem because it's a developmental problem, which is kind of really interesting to think about. We're getting all this issues because Judge Reinhold's character is basically a psychologist or a psychiatrist, whatever you want to go. He's starting to kind of push the Wendy Crewson character into his corner of the boxing ring, and she's starting to worry about everything, and she's starting to basically believe that Scott Calvin is basically losing his mind, which is pretty interesting. And it takes basically everything to fall apart, Scott Calvin to lose his son, Scott Calvin to basically kidnap his son, which is pretty crazy, and to get to the end point where we officially see that the idea of seeing is believing, not believing is seeing, or believing is seeing is not seeing, believing, whatever you want to call it as, I can't remember. To really understand that the idea of this movie is about the dreams and hopes that we lose as we grow as an adult, which is a really, really fascinating thing and something you don't really think about when you're watching this movie. It's about people like you and me who look at the holiday as just a spending holiday. The one thing cool about growing up as a kid with, my family is we were given the ability to see Santa Claus a few days before Christmas Eve. Then we go to, Christmas Eve and open up presents. But the idea of just the wonderment and enjoyment of that scenario is really, really fun to watch. And that's what this movie is presenting, is the idea of a kid kind of giving hope and dreams to the people that have lost them. There's a point at the very end of this movie where when everybody officially believes that he's Santa Claus, he drops the things and dreams of things that people have lost or wanted that kind of made them not believe in Santa Claus, like a weenie whistle, the high Oscar Mayer weenie whistle, if you ever seen that, or the dating board game, or I think it was a soccer ball or something like that he gave to his kid. But it's just those moments are what makes this movie just so wholly unique and so much fun to watch. This idea of representing what Christmas should be instead of what it is. And I think I like that most of all. I think that's what sometimes you forget to see when you see these movies. Look at Christmas Story, which is basically about a kid wanting a Red Ryder BB gun, but the whole idea is him wanting something, but just how does he get there to get it, which is about commercialism. But then you look at stuff like The Grinch, which is about a guy who is just angry and he sees the love and spirit and heart of all the people around him, which makes him, believe in the same thing. And that's in essence what this movie is kind of doing. But with that said, once the movie completes, the thing that really impresses me is John Pasquin, who, like I said, directed this, has worked with Tim Allen on a lot of stuff. I think he's directed, a whole bunch of Home Improvement, if not the whole entire series, if I remember right. But he's worked on a lot of TV series. But he's worked with Tim Allen a lot and in a lot of series, like I said, and you can really feel the comfortability of them two working together. I think that's why Tim Allen was so insistent on him doing this, because it makes for a much more compatible and much more easygoing experience. It doesn't mean everybody enjoyed the experience. It makes it for the actor who has a lot of clout because of Home Improvement to kind of mold the movie in the way he wants it. And they presented a lot of great characters. The Judge Reinhold psychologist character or psychiatrist, whatever you want to call him, is fantastic. When you see him and how he reacts to everything, it's completely the opposite of what Judge Reinhold is, which is, usually a goofy, over-the-top guy. Look at like Beverly Hills Cop or Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It's a lot different. One of my favorite roles that he's ever been in is Vice Versa. If you see it has Fred Savage in it. He's just that kind of character actor. It's just you love to watch on screen because he can bring so much to the table. And then you got Wendy Crewson, who was in Air Force One, who's just fun as that middle person, the mom who really cares about her son, really sees that there's something wrong, but kind of understands that he needs his father, and kind of is the almost anchor point of that realistic scenario. And then, of course, Peter Boyle, with the whole ownership thing, or the CEO of the company, and he is a small part, but I like seeing Peter Boyle and stuff. But it really does hinge on Tim Allen and Eric Lloyd's characters. They're the kind of the linchpin of this movie. And when they interact with everything, when you see Tim Allen interact and kind of just like so confused and so conflicted by everything, it's fun to see his son become kind of another anchor point, but kind of a point of context and a point of stabilization, I guess you could say. And I love that for it. But like I said, David Krumholtz as Bernard is my favorite part about this movie outside of Judge Reinhold, because there's something special about David Krumholtz when he's in all the the Judd Apatow movies, or he's in Numbers. I think he was in Numbers or something like that. He just has a way and an aura about him that's just so much fun and so believable as an elf. And then when you're inside the elf workshop and you see all these like kids who were actually playing adults, like really old adults, it's just fun to see him like try to keep everything level, and just he has so much stress and so much just like anger, but it's like rolled up in a ball of some kind of coherence. But yeah, I cannot tell. This movie is just so much fun. It's a movie that just brings joy every time I watch it. It's on Disney. If you have Disney Plus, it's on Disney Plus now, and it's a movie that you watch once or twice a year, but you feel so at home. It gives you a lot of warm heartedness, and it's funny, it's smart, and it's goofy, and it's unrealistic, but it's just a Christmas movie. It's like any movie you watch during the holiday season. You're gonna have your unrealistic moments, but it's fun. So but yeah, there you go. That's the Santa Claus. I'm not talking about the other two for a long time, because I do not like the other two movies. But as a standalone, as I consider this movie, I think it's a lot of fun. So anyways, that'll do it. That's my take on the Santa Claus. Thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see, of course, hit the subscribe button, join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next, and of course, comment below on any video that you watch on my channel. Otherwise, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out. What's up, guys? Thank you so much for checking out Movie Emporium. I really appreciate it. If you want to, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification button and the bell at the top. Find out what's coming next for Movie Emporium. Also, check out these two videos. They're amazing. I think they're awesome. I think you'll enjoy them too. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.